Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Welcome to the corner of South First Avenue and East First Street, where we're here in front of the county office building with some of the most important people in the city of Mount Vernon, Westchester County, and neighboring counties to dedicate this county office building to my left, your right, in honor of Reginald A. LaFayette. I'm going to ask the Reverend Darren Morton, who will speak in a few minutes in his role as controller, to speak in his role as the spiritual leader of Macedonia Baptist Church and lead us in an opening prayer. Reverend Morton.
Let us all bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this wonderful, shiny day. God, we thank you for the presence of every person that is here today. We thank you for this occasion in which we come to honor Reginald Lafayette. And God, we ask that you will guide us and keep us through this process, but also through life. This we pray in the precious name of Jesus. Let everyone say amen.
Amen. We have a lineup of individuals who are going to share their thoughts on this very important day where we remember the life and times of Reggie Lafayette, our friend, a person who led us in public office and in political responsibilities for many, many years. We come here to remember him fondly, remember him as he is alive in our hearts this day. This building, many years ago, was the headquarters for Con Edison in Westchester County. I lived for a couple of years a few blocks from here on East Prospect Avenue, and in those days, before there was an internet, and before there was paying bills by telephone, you paid bills with checks in envelopes that you mailed. And I remember one particular night when I finished writing out the bills of what I owed, I left the apartment, walked over here, and I went to the post office to mail the bills that were going elsewhere, but I saved myself, probably was an 8-cent stamp, by taking my Con Edison bill and putting it through the front slot of that diagonal door. How many of you are old enough to remember that? The slot for the Con Edison bills. I never thought, in my wildest imaginations as a man of 26 when I did that we would be back at that very door to honor my friend, our friend, Reginald Lafayette. But that is what we're here to do. And the first person who will share his thoughts is our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is so good to see all of you here for the dedication of the Reginald A. Lafayette building. I know today that Reggie's looking down and he is just laughing his butt off. You know what he really said. We just couldn't have said that. But here, in the view of the outstanding Mount Vernon Democratic Committee headquarters, and here at the Con Ed building, making sure that we have that continued remembrance and recognition of our good friend and leader, Reginald A. Lafayette. So today, I made sure to wear this tie because you know Reggie would have rocked something like this. It's not my general style. And even though it's after Memorial Day, I just couldn't rock the Bucks either. So thank you all for being out here. This is going to be a great day for Reggie A. Lafayette. Thank you.
We're joined today by members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. We're joined by Legislator David Tubiolo, who represents a portion of Mount Vernon. We have with us Ben Boykin, the immediate past chairman of the Board of Legislators, who represents White Plains and Scarsdale. We're expecting the imminent arrival of Tyree Woodson Samuels. Imminent arrival, how about that? Right on cue. Representing the heart of the city of Mount Vernon. And we're going to invite for a few words of comment the chair of the Board of Legislators, the Honorable Vedat Gashi.
Thank you. I am honored to be here as we gather to memorialize a Westchester legend, a person who was larger than life, Reggie Lafayette. My favorite thing about Reggie was that he couldn't stand fools and he had no time for nonsense. So I'm going to know my place and keep this short. but few people have had so great an impact on the landscape in Westchester, serving as election commissioner and party chair, and so many of us received his support, time, and effort. And it's funny, for a man who couldn't stand that nonsense, he was always so incredibly generous with his time and support of so many, including myself, right after I met him. I'm beholden to it. And so that's why I'm so incredibly proud to be here, and how fitting it is to have a place, this building, named the Reginald A. LaFayette County Office Building in his beloved home of Mount Vernon, to stand as a testament to his many contributions and his distinguished career. And I'm grateful that this building will forevermore serve as a testament, a memory, a tribute to that great man and that distinguished career. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to recognize those who represent us in the state legislature. We're joined by a former colleague of mine who served together when we served in the state Senate, an inspiration to me 45 years ago. Sorry to date you, Ruth. But the great Senator forever, Ruth Hassel Thompson. Ruth. We have regrets from Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who wanted to be here today, but her responsibilities are such that she couldn't. She has sent our good friend Simra Brandon to be here to represent us. So Simra, thank you for being here. And we do have with us 3 members of the delegation. Some are represented here as well. Chris Burdick asked Iris Lachaud to be here with us today. Chris Burdick did. And but we have in person State Senator Shelley Mayer, State Assemblyman Steve Otis, and we'd like them to stand at the podium alongside Reggie's longtime friend, my friend, Assemblyman Gary Pretlow. Assemblyman.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and good morning, everyone. Someone asked if I'm going to tell any stories about Reggie. I says, nah. But the county executive and I, we share a lot of stories, and the second person I met when I moved to Mount Vernon was Reggie. Brenda was the first person because she was friends with my ex-wife, and she introduced me to Reggie. And from that date on, Reggie and I have been close. And it didn't always appear that we were close because you wouldn't always see us together or whatever, but we communicated in our own way and always had each other's back. And I think that's important. I think that's what friendship is about. You don't have to always be with someone to be with them. So we're standing next to this beautiful 10-story building. I think it's the tallest office building in Mount Vernon. And it's being renamed to who I consider the tallest man in Mount Vernon. Maybe not tall in stature, but tall in achievements. I look at this audience now and I see so many people whose political careers were dependent or created because of the actions of Reginald A. LaFayette. From council people to judges to the chief judge at one time, and everybody in between. Even myself, Reggie was instrumental. So I really want to thank the county for doing this and honoring Reggie and the family for all of his good deeds and good doings. And he is looking down at us right now. And he's smiling. He might be laughing, but he's definitely a happy camper right now. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored to be here. And one thing about Reggie that I really loved, he told you the truth. You didn't always want to hear it the way he said it, but he told you the truth, and he told it short and quick, and he was right. You didn't always like it, you didn't want to hear it, but he gave great advice. He told you the path forward. He stood by you when it was tough. And for that, so many in this room, including myself, are forever indebted to his guidance and leadership and his vision in helping us get to a place where we could make change. We all owe him an enormous debt of gratitude, and that's why I'm so pleased to see this beautiful building named after Reggie Lafayette.
Reggie was a giant, and Reggie was a friend to all of us, and always a phone call away, and you'd see him at all the events. But one thing that stays with me is probably the best eulogy I have ever heard for any man was the eulogy that Reggie gave for David Ford at a church in Mount Vernon years ago. His presentation on behalf of David will stay with me forever, and I think will stay with anyone who was in that church on that day. And so the message for us here today is, let's do for Reggie what Reggie did for David and keep him in our heart, and this building is a great way to do it. Thank you.
Good morning. As they say in the church, Reggie thought it not robbery to adopt a little boy from the Bronx to become the senator for the Bronx and Mount Vernon. And I never forget the way that he embraced me, because he didn't have to embrace me in the manner that he did, because he did in a real way, in a way that was consistent and ongoing. And our relationship developed when he was the county chair and I became the county chair. We had a more, instead of sensei to teacher, sensei to student, it became sensei to, I still wasn't at Reggie's level, let's be very clear. But our evolution as friends and colleagues got to a certain level, and I'm incredibly proud to have been able to have been tutored by him in so many ways. And this renaming of this building will serve for not just our generation, not just my daughter's generation, generations thereafter. They're going to stop at this building, and they're going to look up and say, who was Reginald A. LaFayette? And anybody that knows anything about this city and this history is going to be able to tell them a hell of a lot about who he was, who he is, and who he always will be. One hell of a dresser, one hell of a guy. Rest in peace, Reggie.
And that was Senator Jamal Bailey, our brother from the Bronx. We have a number of people here from Westchester County government. I want to recognize the county clerk, Tim Idoni, who's with us here today. We have members from the judiciary that we're very honored to be with us here today. We have with us Judge Brandon Saul, Surrogate Court. We have a daughter of Mount Vernon, Judge Helen Blackwood. We have State Supreme Court Charlie Wood is with us today. We have Judge Emeritus and head of the Institute, our good friend, Kathy Davidson. And she's got a cheering section with her. And my brother, who is now a judge, formerly a county legislator, my friend Lyndon Williams, the Honorable Lyndon Williams. We're also joined, because Reggie could bring us all together, by friends who've been active in the county government and also in the political world on the other side of the political aisle. But they're here today to show their respect for Reggie. Doug Colty, fellow commissioner of the Board of Elections, head of the Republican Party. Christine Sculte, who is one of the leaders in the Board of Elections as well. Former Deputy County Executive Phil Gilles is with us today. And this is a tribute to Reggie. Thank you for being here for this. I have some members of my executive team, in addition to Ken, that are here today. Director of Operations Joan McDonald is here. Andrew Ferris, Chief of Staff. You certainly see Catherine Chaffee and the communications team all over the place doing her work. And we have with us also Ellen Hendricks, our Director of Research, also a town councilwoman from Greenburgh. We have with us political leadership from the Democratic Party, our current Democratic County Chair, Suzanne Berger, and a past Democratic County Chair, son of Mount Vernon, David Alpert. No one was a closer intellectual companion to Reggie Lafayette through his many responsibilities in both public office and in political office than our next speaker. She is the commissioner of the Board of Elections, and she has done a magnificent job in her own right. But side by side with Reggie, every accomplishment that Reggie achieved during those years in both the Board of Elections and in the party leadership are equally shared by Tajon Nelson.
Good morning, everyone. As I stand here today, I can't help but think, really, what would Reggie really be saying? Because you might find all of this a bit much. As you know, despite his stature within the Democratic Party, within our city, he still considered himself quite the humble man who just came here from Charleston just to make a living and take care of his family. And as we know, he accomplished that and more. I'm standing up here speaking on behalf of the Board of Elections, as well as on behalf of the Mount Vernon Democratic City Committee and the Westchester County Democratic Committee. Those were all positions that he held as chair, and I was honored to stand right by him as his executive assistant, secretary, so on and so forth. When I stand up here, it really strikes me how hard it is because I still don't believe that he's gone. I feel his spirit constantly daily. And as I sit up here, what I really think about is he was our GOAT, right? He was the greatest of all time, okay? And everyone here knows that whether he was sitting at the AAC or in Ripe or Molino's or he was dining with the governor and presidents of these United States, he was always honest. He led us with strength, nobility, humor, and he just was a great leader. As we head into this lovely primary season, as you know, I think about a couple of things that he says. So one major statement that he always said, and you guys know his line, there are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And I say all this to say we right now have primaries within the county legislative races, as well as in our beloved city and cities throughout the county. And let's just keep in mind, let's not take it personal, right? There's always a winner and a loser. And I hope that everyone will try to make peace and remain friends after all of this. Thank you. While Reggie was definitely my mentor, one of the greatest people that affected me within my life. And I'm honored and happy that he's up there in heaven with so many of my other angels, my husband, my grandmother, etc. I do stand here and think about the fact that he wasn't just a Democratic leader. He was your friend. He was your confidant. He was an uncle. He was a dad. He loved his kids, Jahi and Deirdre. He loved his sisters. One of them is here with us. The other one is also an angel in heaven. And he was an uncle to my kids. As you know, Jahi and Deirdre have not blessed him with grandkids as of yet. There's still time. So, no pressure. And he treated my son, Nadara's Ford's son, who's not here. She was also his assistant. He would have loved Whitney Felder's daughter, Paige. He adopted all of our children. They called him Uncle Reggie. And I think this is a wonderful honor. And I'm gonna love passing by. It's another great asset to our city. And I'm gonna be honored to tell everyone who was the man, the myth, the GOAT of Mount Vernon and Westchester County, Reginald A. LaFayette. And don't ask me what the A stands for because he wouldn't tell you. God bless.
Tayshawn Nelson. Let me recognize a few other people who are here today. We have a dynamic trio in our offices in the executive chamber of the county administration, and we live or die by their talent and skill. Tracy Thompson-Smith is with us. Tracy. Crystal Collins. Crystal. And the one and the only Diane Atkins. We're also honored to be joined by Ty Johnson, who is here, and she is representing her husband, Chris Johnson, and also the State Attorney General, Letitia James. Thank you, Ty. We have with us here Tom Meyer, who is a leader in Yonkers, both in government and in politics. And he has not only brought the respect of Mike Spano, the mayor of Yonkers, but he brought a proclamation from the city of Yonkers in Reggie's memory because of the close relationship between Yonkers and Mount Vernon over all these years. We have a couple of other members of the judiciary that are here. Judge Nichelle Johnson is with us, Your Honor. And my partner from numerous train stations last fall, the Honorable State Supreme Court Judge Kerry Fiore. And we also have Judge Tamika Coverdale is with us here today. Tamika. Future train stations ahead for some of the people I've just mentioned. We also want to recognize we're joined by Hattie Adams, who is the leader of the CSCA local for Westchester County. I can introduce her nicely now. We got the contract done, Hattie. Whew. Good job. The family of Reggie Lafayette knew him best, and they knew him in the most personal of ways. And for those of us who knew him through the community, as close as we might be, who would be closer than his sister, his daughter, and his son? We're very honored to have them with us here. We're happy to have Pam Williams with us here, a longtime friend of mine, Jahi's mother. But for Deirdre, who I knew was a very little girl, and Jahi, and the rest of the Lafayette family, please come up here and share your thoughts about your dad and your brother from that family side. We're so honored that you could be here, and in some cases from a distance.
I don't know if I'm going to make it. Good morning. Thank you all for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here because I know my brother was a great man. He took care of me like he was my father. He took care of our whole family, and it's an honor to be here to see this building dedicated to him. Y'all forgive me, I'm very emotional. Yes, but he took care of us at home. He didn't come to visit often, but we know he was a busy man doing what he did for all of you. And I'm so happy about that. He mentored me as a child, helped me do my homework, helped me write essays, cooked on my easy bake oven. And as you can see, I follow his dress. So I thank you all again for having me here, and it's a pleasure and an honor. Reggie, I love you. Say hi to Mom, Jackie, Grandma, all. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you all for coming. My father was about 18 or 19 when he left home, his home in Charleston, South Carolina, and moved to New York. And he loved to tell me and anyone else who would listen that he came with one brown suit, one blue suit, and one brown suitcase. Here we are over 40 years later dedicating a building to him, and that is amazing. A building that he probably drove by over 1,000 times. A building that faces Democratic headquarters on one side and City Hall on the other. And this is fitting because my father spent countless hours at both places. He loved the city of Mount Vernon, as it was evident in the many years that he served this community. I remember tagging along, or better yet, being dragged to campaign events, being bored out of my mind, while he strategized with his colleagues on how to make our city and the world a better place. And I would have much rather have been at Playland. We will forever be proud of the work he has done and the legacy that he's left for not just my brother and I as his children, but for his neighbors and for, most importantly, the Mount Vernon community. In my father's last speech, he reminded the citizens of Mount Vernon that as long as you keep in your heart and in your mind that you have done the right thing for the city of Mount Vernon and its constituents, you have then declared yourself a member of the community. I ask that you be kind to one another and continue to do what is right for Mount Vernon. Thank you.
That applause was for me. But good morning, Westchester County. Good morning. And y'all know who we are, so we're going to do it right. Good morning, money earning Mount Vernon. Good morning. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but it's an honor. This is something that, as my father would say, a poor country boy from Charleston could have never imagined. He came to New York looking to make a way to provide for his family. And great people invested in him. My father was not a finance guy, but he was very fiscally responsible, and he often talked about investment. And not investing your money, but investing your energy. We go to work, that's an investment. His work for the county, as the county knows, is HR in the county here. Anybody from HR, they know Reggie Lafayette didn't take a vacation unless somebody died. And investing in people. And his investment in people allowed this to happen, and people's investment in him. People like David Ford. If you look behind me, there's Mount Vernon Democratic City headquarters, and that's on David Ford Way. You can walk from David Ford Way to the Reginald A. Lafayette building. His investment of this day shows his investment in people and his investment in work. We are the workers, as he would say. We get it done. But his investment of people allowed for this to happen, allowed for friendships like the members of the county legislature and the county executive to be able to be in a position to make this happen and to have the vision. I learned about his investments when he passed away. Not those kind of investments. I don't have no money. When I all of a sudden seemed to have out the blue a bunch of new fathers and a bunch of new mothers. And the new mothers, for some reason, can't seem to stay out of my business. His investment in people shows. He even invested his time and his energy into two of my own friends. And I say this often, how they've become two of his brightest pupils. Many of you are his proteges and pupils and cohorts. And he's seen a friend of mine. He didn't live to see it, but he told me, she's going to be a Supreme Court judge. And he told me, my other friend, he said, yeah, you need to stick close to him because he's going to do big things. And he's behind me. He'll speak later. That's William Wagstaff. But I thank you all, and to the members of the legislature, Mount Vernon legislators, Tubiolo, my man Tyree, thank y'all. Thank y'all. I'm running out of words. Y'all want me to rap? But nah, thank y'all. Oh, give a round of applause for probably the only person Reggie Lafayette ever in his life feared, and that's my mother, Pamela Williams. She's here.
Who wants to speak next? Let me recognize a few more people that we want to make sure everybody knows is here. We're joined by the District Attorney of Rockland County. He's not out here investigating you, so relax. Tom Walsh, former judge. Tom, thank you for being with us today. We also have Brandon Lloyd with us here, representing Governor Hochul. Thank you, Brandon. A couple of individuals more on my executive team are here. Martha Lopez, who is a councilwoman in New Rochelle and also Director of Policy and Programs for us. We have our Director of Intergovernmental Services, Steve Bass, and Assistant Director Copernicus Craner here. Is there anybody in the office, guys, or what? We don't know if anybody's in this. Okay, just checking. And then, of course, there are a lot of longtime friends of Reggie, people that I know from way back in the day, as well as those who knew him more frequently. I would be remiss, although the mayor is going to introduce all of the relevant Mount Vernon people, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Sarefa Khan and Lisa Copeland for a lifelong time that we spent together with Reggie in numerous situations. So now that he's had a chance to shift his spiritual hat to a secular one, I now invite back up our City Controller, Darren Morton.
Show me the money.
Thank you. First of all, good morning. Good morning to everyone. Of course, I would come behind Jahi, which is actually the legacy that Reggie has personally left me to watch over this guy. But not such a hard job. Listen, when I think about Reggie Lafayette, who I've had the pleasure of actually engaging with on an intersect of ways and situations, I think about a poem that I learned earlier written by Rudyard Kipling. And in there's a line that says, to walk among kings, but never to lose the common touch. And to me, that kind of typifies Reggie. Reggie had the opportunity to be in chambers and be in environments and be at places that, of course, would elevate him to the level of royalty, but yet still do that with the personification of being a humble servant of the people in which God had given to him. And I say that because I know that he did that in his work as, of course, in the public sector, but he also did that in his work also in the Masonic era. He did that also in his work as a member of the board of the youth shelter in which I serve as the chair of now. Those are the kinds of tentacles that he now has laid out. And there are young men, young women that are not only those that are in the political arena, but there's young men and young women that are also have dealt with social ills and social problems in which Reggie actually affected their life. And so today I'm very honored to be here, to be a part of this celebration for my brother and for my friend. Personally, he encouraged me to run into this office because I never would have thought to do so. But I thank him for his encouragement to do that. And this building, the mortar, the brick and mortar, will show as an example to the world of what someone who comes from very humble means, with a purpose of hard work and dedication and commitment and integrity, and in strong integrity can accomplish. So again, congratulations to Westchester County, congratulations to Mount Vernon, most of all, congratulations to the LaFayette family.
Thank you, Reverend Darren Morton, who's our city controller. Let me also recognize that we're joined by Joseph Orlando, who's representative State Controller Tom DiNapoli. Thank you, Joe. We have Judge the Honorable Erin O'Shea from Greenburgh is with us here today. Your Honor, pleasure to be with you. We have two more notable executives from the Board of Elections that are here, Gary Stracuzzi and Guy Parisi. Thank you both for being with us today. Next up, we have a gentleman who we know is an outstanding attorney. I heard something said a few minutes ago that might turn into doing train stations also, but we'll see what happens when the time is right. Our next speaker, William O. Wagstaff III, attorney at law.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jahi was exactly right when he spoke about the way that Reggie invested. And he invested so much into me that there would be times that I came to the house to see Jahi and spend 2-3 hours with Reggie, and Jahi would say, "You here to see me or you here to see him?" And Reggie would shoo him and say, "I'm with my nephew. Leave us alone." And there was a lot of things that Reggie did that we all are aware of. And for me, as an attorney and someone who prides myself on fighting for justice, his legacy for me that was most important was the browning of the bench in Westchester County. He understood that in order to have justice for all of the litigants, for all of the defendants, that there needed to be a diverse bench. And when you see a black judge, you may think maybe Reggie had something to do with it. No, Reggie had something to do with it. So anytime that people in Mount Vernon walk by this building, you should be able to look up at the building and take away from it that he understood your worth, he understood your value, and did everything in his power to make sure that wherever you found yourself, you were going to get equity because the bench was going to see you for who you were and understand you. And that is something that every Mount Vernonite should be proud of. Thank you.
Coming down near the close, the first mayor of the city of Mount Vernon that I ever met, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, walking with my mother on 4th Avenue between H.L. Green's and Janung's, both of distant memory. And my sister was in a stroller, and there was kind of a short man with a double-breasted suit and a whole bunch of other men around him, and he had a flower in his lapel. And he came over to me and he rubbed my head, you know, as men do to little boys. And I go, "Who is that, Mommy?" And she says, "That was the mayor." His name was Joseph Vaccarella. Mayor Vaccarella rubbed me on the head as a little boy. A few years later, I got to know all the mayors in the interim years. One of those mayors, Thomas Sharp, chewed me out pretty badly in his office when I worked for the city planning department. I had done something that he was not happy with. And I remember standing there in the office sweating absolute bullets at the age of 24 years old. So I've interacted with a lot of mayors. But I don't know if there's a tougher job in the county of Westchester, maybe the mayor of Yonkers. But other than that, I don't know what's a tougher job than trying to deliver the services to people in need, not necessarily having all the revenue you need, which is why you do need and have a partner in White Plains, but to take on the mayoralty is a serious task. Our mayor today, Sean Patterson Howard. Madam Mayor.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, good morning, Westchester. You're all here in Mount Vernon to celebrate Chairman LaFayette, who served Westchester, Mount Vernon, the state, the nation. We're excited to be here today as we are renaming the old Con Ed building and what so many of us just referred to as DSS to the Reginald A. LaFayette building. And people have talked about Reggie's humble beginnings, his blue suit and his brown bag. But if you think about the building that's being named for him, is the place where our most vulnerable come every day to receive support and services, whether it's housing support, food stamps, mental health services, legal services, eviction prevention. They're walking into the building named after a man who wanted to always make sure that everyone had what they needed to lead an important life. And that's amazing that this building is being named after him. We also know that this is an iconic building that is part of the very framework of downtown Mount Vernon. And so Reggie is iconic, and he was part of the framework of downtown and everywhere in Mount Vernon. It's also appropriate. We've talked about former Chairman David Ford and how he was connected to Reggie. Well, David Ford came to New York, a very humble man, and his first job was as a window washer here at the Con Edison building. And I know that because my Aunt Dolores was the first Black elevator operator, and she helped him get that job, and they became lifelong friends. And so they are connected in so many different ways. Before I get in trouble, I want to make sure that I recognize of course, our controller. We have our City Council President, Danielle Brown. City Councilwoman Lisa Copeland, City Councilman Derek Thompson, City Councilwoman Caitlin Gleason. We have our Judge Nichelle Johnson, our Judge Tamika A. Coverdale, our Judge Lyndon Williams. We have our library trustees, Dolores Mack, Jonathan Davis, Loretta Thomas. Just want to make sure our electeds. We have our former mayor. I got him. I was talking about the currents. We have our former mayor and the mayor of Mount Vernon, who only has a minute, but he takes an hour. That's his poem. I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, didn't choose it, right? I got it. So our former mayor of Mount Vernon, Ernest Davis. I want to acknowledge some of our other former electeds who worked very closely with Reggie. We have our former councilman and acting mayor, Andre Wallace. We have Marcus Griffith, and these are council people, Marcus Griffith, Janice Duarte. We have Stephen Horton. We have James Finch. These are the ones that I could see right now as our former electeds who continue to serve in the city of Mount Vernon. As the chairman, we had former chairwoman, Sarafa Khan Halevi, who was former chairwoman. Our current chairwoman of the Mount Vernon Democratic City Committee, Mary Graves. Our former chairman also of Mount Vernon, David Alpert. We have our former senator, Ruth Hassel Thompson. We have the current leadership and administrative team of the city of Mount Vernon, and I'm not going to name them all because it's too many, but our Mount Vernon who are serving now, please just raise your hands. We want to acknowledge them for the work they continue to do. We're just really grateful for you all being here. And so that's really what I wanted to say. Reggie was an icon who served, a humble man who wanted to make sure that people had what they needed to succeed. And so everyone that walks through this door, named after him, are coming here seeking help, support, advice, and service to help them reach the next level of their lives and to stabilize them. And I pray that when they walk in this building, they understand that the building that this man is named after, that is what he lived and he breathed. So it wasn't just about politics, it was about the people. And this right here is a building for the people. God bless. Oh, I'm sorry. Our current electeds, they acknowledged them earlier. Our county legislator, Tyree Woodson Samuels, and our county legislator, David Tubiolo, also representing Mount Vernon. Wanted to make sure I covered everyone. Thank you. Oh, Jesus. You know, when you're standing behind you, I'm looking forward. Our Assemblyman, James Gary Pretlow, and our Senator, Jamal Bailey. I need to look behind me. Our county executive and our deputy county executive. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. A couple more recognitions, then we'll wrap it up. First of all, from our executive team, we have the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, still a DSS building. Leonard Towns is with us. Commissioner. We also have with us two additional members of the Greenburgh Town Board. Now, I mentioned Ellen Hendricks earlier. We're now joined by Ken Jones, Councilman Ken Jones, Councilwoman Gina Jackson, and you can now consider that you're at an illegal meeting of the Greenburgh Town Board since a majority is present. I also want to say, when the mayor mentioned Dolores Mack, Dolores is a classmate of my younger sister, as was Helen Blackwood. Dolores is having a birthday today. Happy birthday, Dolores! 39. So as we close this ceremony, obviously it's an emotional time for all of us. We remember Reggie in the good days, the days when he was humorous and when he lightened our lives. We remember the days when he was in the part of very difficult issues, and we've all had our conflicts, including together during those days. But I remember the last time that I had dinner with him one-on-one. It came just before Christmas in late 2021, and we lost him in January of 2022. We were at the restaurant, I think it's called Alex, in North White Plains, and we had dinner together. We talked, as you might imagine, about politics and policy. And then at the tail end of the dinner, we obviously made the commitment to see each other in a couple of months to have dinner again. And I asked him, I said, Reggie, when are you fixing to retire? And he said, well, I've got a date in mind. I'm not 100% sure, just like his middle initial, Tejan. He would never actually tell us what his retirement date was, but he was thinking about it. And he talked about retiring to South Carolina. And he talked about what it would be like to sit on the porch of a house and look out over the water. And he invited me to come down. And I said I would. And I said, when I see you down there, man, we're going to sit and we're going to talk. We're going to go over all those old days, and Tom Sharp and David Ford, Ernie Davis, a host of people who were with us and not with us, and all of the stupid things we did and the smart things we did and the things we thought were smart that turned out to be stupid. And there were a few of those. And I realize now that day doesn't happen. I don't get to sit with Reggie on the porch in South Carolina, nor does Jahi or Deirdre. And that is a shame. He deserved a long retirement. He deserved a long, healthy retirement where we could go to him almost like you go to the guru on the mountaintop to ask for advice, because so many younger people would come to him, and he would be there to give them advice and help them in ways of things that he had learned over all these years. So, Reggie, I know you're in heaven. I got a ways to go to get there. I hope we'll have that porch and that rocking chair and that conversation on the other side. But for those of us who remain on this side, today we pay a debt of gratitude. A debt of gratitude that we owed this man. And just like the debt of gratitude that we repaid in fixing Memorial Field and taking a mound of dirt and turning it back to a field that we could have kids play on. I'm very glad that I grew up in this town. I'm very glad that I was a little boy at 4th Avenue. And I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to know Reggie Lafayette. And I'm even more glad that with the support of the Board of Legislators, Ken Jenkins, we're able to look at this building and say, Reggie, you will always be in downtown Mount Vernon for people for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Reginald A. Lafayette, Westchester County Office Building. It belongs to you, and he belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.